Did you get my text?
Nice. Okay, my computer goes down. Okay.
Hello, everyone. This is Chris. Can folks hear me? Okay. Just to make sure I have my settings correct, can you unmute where you can speak?
Looks like we can.
Okay, great. I still feel like I'm learning Zoom, at least in terms of the different settings. Donna, it looks like you started school.
The teachers have, yes. The
Teachers
students
have.
not till next week.
Yeah, I saw you taking off your face mask, so I assumed you were at school.
And putting on a sweatshirt because it's freezing in here.
Yeah. Brings you memories of the AP readings.
Yeah.
I'll give it a couple more minutes as people are logging on here. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? Okay. I'm Chris Franklin, and we welcome you to the K through 12 chat. We have some exciting things to offer you today. I'm going to start out. We were hoping today that we could talk about sharing resources. I know many of you are in the process of starting school. If you haven't already started school, here in Georgia, in my county, school started August the 8th. So the teachers have over a week behind them now with students in person here in my school system. So we'd like to hear from you about maybe your start going back to school, but also maybe resources that you could share with the teachers, whether you might be teaching remotely, in person with social distancing, all the different COVID issues that we are challenged with right now. So I thought we would start with our guest who's joining us today to present some new resources that he has to offer that are open source. And so I'm going to turn it over to Josh Tabor. And thank you, Josh, for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's 1 o'clock out here in the West, but I'm able to make it in. I'm teaching only part-time in the classroom this year, so I've got just one section of AP Statistics. Meets 8:15 to 9:15 every day, but we're online now. We started on Monday, so this is day 4 for us, and we're online. We think probably at least through Labor Day, but probably through fall break. So it's been certainly interesting, and preparing online is, you know, a lot more work than doing it, preparing for in person. But what I wanted to share are some applets that we've been working on that have been around for a little bit, but some that are new that have come out this summer. In fact, in the last just 2 weeks, that should make it easier for you to teach remotely with your students and still do active data collection kind of activities. Or if you're in the classroom and students have devices, but you don't want them all, you know, rushing up to the front of the room with the sticker dot and putting it on the poster that everybody's touching, right? So even if you're in class, but still want to kind of keep some distance, these applets will be hopefully a good resource for you. So if I can, I'm going to try and share my screen. Oh, so Chris needs to allow me to share my screen.
Oh my goodness. Do I see multiple participants? Yes. Okay. Can you share now?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So what you're looking at is, and it'd be great if you went there, if you can have, you know, sort of 2 screens going, or, you know, split your screen or something like that. The website is staplet.com. So it's stats applet, which sort of crunched together. So staplet.com. When I created this website, and let me pause for just a second. When I said I created it, I had some of the ideas for it, but I did none of the programming or any of the difficult stuff. That's Bob Amar, who actually is in Georgia also, in the Atlanta area. He's a stats teacher and computer science teacher, and loves to work on stuff to help students. And so he's been a big part of this, making these applets come into reality. So staplet.com is where they're hosted. And the background of these applets is that myself and my colleague Darren Starnes, and also Chris Franklin, who I've co-wrote and written a book with, we have a couple textbooks that are aimed at what we call on-level crowd. That is the not kids in AP statistics, but kids who are taking a different statistics course at their school, presumably high school. And we're thinking that a lot of these students may not have a graphing calculator, and they don't need one necessarily for their course. Kids in AP stats need a graphing calculator because it's required on the AP exam. But kids in a regular statistics course wouldn't necessarily need to invest in a graphing calculator, especially with the costs and things. So the original intention of these applets was to be a graphing calculator replacement. So we designed them to do everything a graphing calculator could do, but better. Handle more data, make better graphs with labels, build in some simulations and some other things. So that was our original idea. And you can see in the upper left, they're organized by type of data. So if you clicked on one categorical variable single group, what that's going to do is pull up a data table. Basically, you can type in a variable name, like, if you're doing your M&M activity with color, you can input data as counts and categories summarized, or you can input it as raw data if you wanted to type in red, comma, green, comma, green. In this case, mostly you do counts and categories, and you can, fill in red, fill in green, hit begin analysis. It's going to give you the appropriate kind of graph, and you can choose different types of graphs, like a segmented bar graph or a pie graph. It's going to give you summary statistics, and then it's going to allow you to do inference. So we do a lot of simulation-based inference. So it will simulate a sample count, meaning it'll simulate a sample of size 37 to match the original. And you can either choose to use a hypothesized percent, like, well, what would happen if it's supposed to be 50%? And then you could simulate samples of size 37 with a success percent of 50%. Or you could bootstrap and use the observed value as your assumed true value. So, you could do it as a hypothesized value, a hypothesized percent of 50. We could do a sample of size, not a sample, but 100 samples. And you could get a simulated sampling distribution. So you can also do traditional inference, like you could do a one sample Z interval for the proportion of red, 95% confidence. You can do a chi-square goodness of fit test, where you just have to type in the expected counts. So the way this works then is kids have to first think about the type of data that they have. Once they do, they enter the raw data. And only once they enter the raw data can they actually do inference, whether it be simulation-based inference or traditional inference. The idea is that you want kids looking at the data before jumping to a p-value or before jumping to a confidence interval. So then you can also see one categorical variable multiple groups that would lead to like a test of homogeneity, or two categorical variables, which would lead to a test of independence. One quantitative variable single group, that's going to give you like a single dot plot, like for a one sample t interval or a t-test. One quantitative variable multiple groups, that'll give you like parallel dot plots or box plots. And if you have two, you can do a two sample t-test. If you have more than two, you can do an ANOVA. Two quantitative variables is scatter plots, and multiple regression is it's more descriptive. It's not going to give you a lot of inference output, but it will help build models and make predictions and things like that. Then there's also some, what you'd expect, normal distributions and binomial calculators and things like that in here, again, to replace normal CDF and binom CDF and things like that. Okay? That's just an overview of what's here. What I wanted to show off are these ones called collaborative. So on this homepage, you see one quantitative variable single group collaborative. That's what's new. And so I'd like everybody to do this, if you would. So if you could go to one quantitative variable single group and click on collaborative. I don't know why my connection's so slow right now. What you'll see when it pops up are two buttons. One to start a new class code as a teacher, and the other to enter an existing class code. So I'm going to be the teacher for this. So click on the start a new class code as teacher. No, I'll do that, sorry, just me. What that does is when you're set it up as a teacher, it generates a class code. And so I will put that into the chat if I can pull that up on the side here. Okay. Okay. So what I'd like you to do then is enter an existing class code and then type in this code, and then you're going to see the student view, right? So we're on the one quantitative variable single group collaborative. You're going to press the enter an existing class code button and type in C13EBD, okay? And right now that shouldn't give you anything. You should be looking at basically a blank screen where it says enter a number into the plot. So let's collect some data. Type in the number of years that you have been teaching statistics. Number of years that you've been teaching statistics, and then hit add to plot. And hopefully what you should be seeing, both on 200, that's a long time. There we go. And so what somebody noticed is that they might have typed something in wrong, and there's an undo button. That was a late added feature for just that sort of situation where a kid makes a typo and then wants to undo it. So they can undo that. And I'll show you another way to deal with this soon too. Great. So you could be doing this as just a basic data collection question like I just asked you. You could be doing some sort of simulation where kids have to, you know, shuffle some cards and count something or pull beads or flip coins or do something and get a response to build a simulated sampling distribution. Could be basically anything. So below with the graph, you can turn it into a box plot if you want, or turn it into a histogram. You can control the bar widths and things like that. If you have a dot plot, you can also have a counter here. Let's say count the number and percent of dots. You know, say you're doing a simulation-based inference question. You want to know how many dots are greater than or equal to 25. So then it'll count those for you as a percent. Okay. So then I'm going to remove that just so we can keep it clear. If you're wanting to download this data, maybe to use it for something else, you can click the download current data. That will turn it into a CSV file, basically readable by Microsoft Excel. And that'll download for you. Gives you the summary statistics, no surprise there, and you can export those too. Now let me show you what's on the teacher panel. So there's an admin code, and at the bottom of the student screen, you can see like there's an opportunity to type in an admin code. That is, if you wanted to give somebody else privileges to take over as the teacher, you can give them that code. You can pause student data collection. So when I press that button, you should have all gotten a message on your screen saying the teacher has paused the data collection. And then your button that says add to plot, that should be grayed out now. What you'd want this for as a teacher is if, you know, say you're doing a simulation-based inference activity and you want to talk about the probability of getting a dot 25 or higher. Well, you're already midway through your sentence and then somebody adds a dot or somebody adds another dot, right? Then you're like, oh no, the numbers keep changing. So you can pause student data collection to sort of end that part of the process and then start your conversation and not have to worry about new dots appearing. You can change the variable name. So this is number of years teaching stats. And so now that variable name should now appear on your screen, on your graph. And then you can add multiple values. So like if you had a data from another class or something like that you wanted to add in as a teacher, you could add in, just copy and paste data in and just add them all at once instead of having to type them in one at a time. You can also delete an observation, right? So let's say that 200 was still there and the kid who put it in, you know, isn't fessing up and you wanted to delete it. So I could delete one. So I'm going to delete the 15, just no offense, whoever put the 15. I'm going to delete that from the plot. And you can see that goes away. And then teacher has that privilege, obviously, not the student. Okay, so let me, I'll type that 15 back in so whoever that was doesn't feel offended that I took their data away. Okay, so that's basically this applet, this single group collaborative. We are planning to also have the one categorical variable be collaborative as well as the two categorical variables. We're in beta testing on those two. We also have two quantitative variables collaborative. So I won't show you that because I know we've got other people who want to share things. But the two quantitative variables basically allows you to have a collaborative scatter plot. where as a teacher, you can enter the X and Y variable names, and students will be asked to enter their X coordinate and Y coordinate. And then it'll create a class scatter plot, okay? Where you have the opportunity to then fit a regression line or a quadratic or an exponential. It'll make residual plots and things like that. So when you get to the regression chapter, if you're doing some sort of data collection activity or sharing, that would be a great applet to use remotely or in class where you just don't want people rubbing shoulders too much with each other. The last things I want to highlight are this new section here called activities, okay? Activities, these are built to actually run specific activities that have been developed over the years. Before we get to that though, let me just point out the simulation-based inference and traditional inference sections down here, those are really fake outs for kids, right? A kid says, I want to do a 2-sample t-test. So they just press 2-sample t-test. All that's going to do is it's going to open up the one quantitative variables, multiple groups applet. So they still have to go through and do all the data analysis and stuff like that. So no shortcuts here. You have to look at the data before you're allowed to get a p-value or an interval or anything. So the hiring discrimination activity, I'm going to click on that. If everybody would click on that, that'd be great. So click on hiring discrimination. Okay. I'm looking at the chat now for a second. And one thing that my colleague at school, he had a really big class of like 40 kids trying to do this activity all at once. And he was reporting some difficulty with some people weren't getting graphs to show up and some people weren't, it wasn't updating really quickly on their computers. And, because we're at 40 different locations, it might have been like that particular kid's computer. But we're also worried about traffic jams because this is all new to us. And so after we're done with this, if you've had any trouble, like the graph didn't show up for you or was not being responsive, that's helpful to us. So you're kind of like guinea pigs for me right now, also trying to figure this out. So the hiring discrimination, I'm going to start it as a teacher. Okay. And so the code is, so you do enter an existing class code. The code is FD5018. Why won't I copy? There we go. And I will type this into the chat in case you want to copy and paste it. This is an activity from our AP book. Basically, it says that an airline has trained 15 male pilots and 10 female pilots to become captains, but only 8 captain positions are available right now. So they do a lottery, and the lottery results in 5 females and 3 males being selected. Now remember, there was 15 males and only 10 females in the pool. And so basically, it's an activity to sort of talk about the idea of hiring discrimination. In this case, the male pilots who weren't selected were complaining that more females were hired than expected. And so people are going for it already. So the idea of the sample, when I'm in class, we have beads that we draw out and we go up to a board. But here, if you press generate sample, it's going to randomly select 8, record the number of females, and then plot that on the graph. Okay, looks like either we had a lot more people join or people are pressing generate sample more than once. And that's popping up. And so this would be like an opening day activity or simulation-based inference. And 5 was the observed number, so we can count the number and percent of dots greater than or equal to 5. Okay, I'm going to stop data collection so I can talk about it. Oh, so 5 or more happens 17% of our simulated samples. So it's not that unusual. It's plausible that this lottery was fair and we just got 5 women by chance, right? So that's, you guys know how simulation-based inference works. But this one's just built specifically for this activity. The other one that's built specifically for an activity, and we've got about 4 or 5 more of these in the pipeline that are going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. A number of them are based on activities developed by StatsMedics. Doug Tyson actually developed this activity about smelling Parkinson's, and the StatsMedics have also used it here, so you can look at their lesson plan. But for those of you familiar with the Parkinson's activity, you don't all need to go here. I'm not going to read all the way through, but it allows you to just press these buttons, Parkinson's or no Parkinson's, to guess whether you get it correct. And this models the situation that Joy in the video was doing. So I'm gonna wrap it up there and take any questions that people might have. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I know that was fast, but again, I don't want to spend all of your time. Oh, I noticed that Bob's on now. Bob Amar down at I can't see his picture, but he was our programmer for all this. So any feedback you have on functionality or difficulties you've been having with functionality would be super greatly appreciated. So questions, comments?
Awesome.
Any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself. Comments?
Donna
Can you
asked,
tell us what some of the upcoming activities are going to be?
Sure. So we have one that the Stats Medics do about, does Beyonce write her own lyrics? Which is, you know, similar to Random Rectangles. It's similar to Jelly Blubbers, if you've done that, or the Gettysburg Address that Rossman Chance do, or the Federalist Papers. It's sort of in that world of activities. It's going to be really cool because like the first round of the activity, it'll put the lyrics of the song up and kids just push their mouse on the actual words that they want to choose. And it'll calculate it for them. And then it'll do a random sample, and then we'll see how the differences look. So that one's coming. There's one about stratified sampling that the Stats Medics are putting together. They use a Justin Timberlake concert as an example. We have a version of that called Sampling Sunflowers that's going to be coming out. I know there's other ones, but those are the ones that are popping into mind right now. Other questions?
So if we were to use the app and say through all this technology, we accidentally X out, is there a way to get back to our data set that we've collected?
If you enter the class code, if you have the class code still, you should be able to get in. That would put you in as a student. When you're a teacher, one of the first things that pops up is it gives you an admin code. So if you had the class code, you can get in, and then the admin code would then allow you to be a teacher. So you'd have to have those things written down. So if you just X'd out without ever writing that down, then I don't think you can. But writing those things down would be helpful. And then of course you can also download the data if you want to just, and then mass input the data later as a teacher if you wanted to kind of start fresh. Great question.
I just want to say this is great. We're going to be, I'm in New Jersey, and we're opening September 8th. The first week is going to be orientation, technology training, all that kind of stuff. And then the second week we'll start classes. And I'm only going to see my AP Stat kids 2 hours a week, 2 days, 1 hour each day. And I'm going to have some in person and some remote at the same time. So this is going to be a great way for them to all kind of do the same thing. I was wondering how I was going to do it. I was thinking I would do it with a shared like Google Sheet. But this makes all the statistics so much easier. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, it saves a step from like having kids do a Google form and then having to get the responses, then copy and paste those into something else. So that was one of the main goals on the collaborative part. So great.
Thank you.
Josh, crazy question. Is this accessible from China?
According to Google Analytics, people have been using it in China, yes.
If it's Google, then the answer is no. Not legally, not officially.
So China shows up on my list of places that it's been used. So I don't know, maybe the analytics is marching that, but I think it's been, I can pull that up on my screen again somewhere and see, but I'm just learning how to use this Google Analytics stuff that measures your website traffic and things. It's fascinating to watch. But it's my understanding that it works there.
But it'd be people using a VPN or something, because it's technically not legal in China. Anything Google is not legal in China.
So Statlet isn't Google. It just has a little tag that like reports stuff to Google. So I don't know if that prevents them from doing it.
All right. That might make the difference. That might make the difference. Okay, cool. Because I'm doing an APSI next week in China.
Whew,
of course, on Zoom.
Yeah. Other questions?
And this will be posted.
Everything that you saw is live, just at staplet.com.
Okay. Will this video be posted? Because I got in late. My bad.
Oh, I don't know. That's a Chris question.
Lee, this is being recorded.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
So US is number 1, Mexico is number 2, with 0.9%. It's 97% US. China's number 7. 9 different users have used it in China. And then 11 in Taiwan, 10 in Singapore. So it gets used, but not that much.
Hi, Josh. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay, I was just going to ask a question. Somebody posted that the class code is good for 72 hours. I'll have students in class and students remote, but I'm not allowed to require them to be synchronous. Would they still be able to like add on to the data later on if I'm not in Staplet?
I think so,
So
but
that they couldn't,
I don't know that for sure. That it's
Okay.
one thing that I do to test it is like I log in one place on my computer as a teacher, then I go on my phone as a student, and then
Okay.
you know, can play around with different things like that. Just write down the codes so you can get back in if you need to.
all right, thanks.
And then Bob's making sure I'm saying things correctly in the chat. So as long as the data collection isn't paused, yeah, so then you should be fine. Betsy, do you have a question?
I did. I think I just answered it though. I was looking at the number of streaks. First of all, this is wonderful. I'm just thrilled. We start in 2 weeks and this is perfect. I was just looking at the number of streaks, and for that one, is that like a bootstrap? Is that just taking what I enter in, or is it taking the percentage of successes, or is it just randomizing what I enter?
So it's assuming that the percentage of successes that you entered is the true percentage, and then essentially doing a spinner
Okay.
to sort of generate new streaks, and then counting the number of runs.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Donna, question? Oh, talking to somebody else. Anything else here?
Josh, thank you so much. We
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it and appreciate all the hard work of everybody on your team. I think what's really nice about these applets is that they can be used not only in AP statistics, but in non-AP courses and within our math courses as teachers are trying to integrate statistics in the curriculum. So they're very accessible, very easy to use, and we certainly do need these applets during this time that we're in right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I'm glad we could get them out there, and hopefully we'll get the rest out as quick as possible.
So everybody needs just to keep checking the website for the updates, right?
Right.
So any last minute questions? Well, Josh, thank you so much. And please stay with us if you have time, but we
Oh,
certainly-
sure.
Okay.
I'm taking notes because I want other resources too.
Okay, sounds good. Well, before I ask if anyone else has some resources that they brought today to share, I thought I would turn over to Brabsy, who I think wants to talk a little bit about the upcoming BABs. I mean, not Roxy.
Hi, so hopefully you all received notice about the BAPS gone virtual this year since JSM didn't meet in person, but there's still some room if you're interested. There's going to be next week, Monday and Tuesday. We're doing it in 2 4-hour blocks. They're from let's see, 9 to 11, I think in Pacific, 9 to 1 Pacific time, so it would be 12 to 4 Eastern time. We have a good lineup of speakers. On Monday and Tuesday, we've got Beth Chance. On Monday, we have a session by Beth Chance and a session by Alan Rossman. And on Tuesday, we have a session by Chris Franklin, and I'm doing a session on in the Tuesday one as well. So we're going to give it a try and see how it goes virtual. We do hope to record them and make them available. And then if it goes well virtual, We may try and just scatter them through the year, just do a single 4-hour, you know, we don't necessarily have to have a full day like we did at JSM where we do 4 different topics. If it works well, we'll see about just sort of through the year scattering, you know, maybe a 4-hour session with 2 speakers and try and, you know, line up with what you're currently covering maybe in AP. So anyway, so if you haven't already, I know I've seen some of the names on the list already. So some of you have already registered, but if you haven't, the registration information is on the American Statistician website, and we'll see some of you on Monday and Tuesday.
Okay, thank you, Roxy. So now I'm going to turn the floor over to all of you. Did anyone maybe bring something that they'd like to share with us today that they're using as they start their classes, or that they plan to use that may be helpful for others?
Chris, I have something that I brought along that I can share.
That would be wonderful.
So this is actually something that I shared, gosh, I guess it was maybe about a week and a half ago. If you're in the AP Statistics Reader Facebook group, there was Bob Peterson had put together a meeting, like I said, a week and a half ago, and Alan Rossman spoke there, and I did like a little opening thing for this. And so this is the opening thing that I did, and I'm going to share my screen on this. So this is called Chat Explosion. So like using the chat with your students to get everybody to communicate about something. And I know some of you are also APSI presenters, and so you've seen this as well in the past. But you know, like if you ask a question in your classroom, you know, that might be like crickets, and in Zoom or Google Meets, it can definitely be much worse, because you can't even like look to see if they're even paying attention, especially if they have their webcams off. You don't know how engaged they are. So you ask them a question, and you know, what do you notice about this distribution? And people are not going to say anything. And so I have this strategy that I've used called a chat explosion. I used this actually at the end of last semester when we went online. So basically, you tell your students to type your response, but don't, you know, hit enter until you say go or explode or whatever keyword you want to say. So you have to give them the directions and display the prompt first. Then you tell them to type whatever it is that they need to type, and usually I give them a 15 to 30 second warning. You know, you got about 15 seconds to finish what you're typing, and then you say go, and you watch the chat explode. And I encourage my students to read the chat, so to scroll back up through the chat and think about how their response was similar or different to what's already there. And then you, as a teacher, can kind of take what you see in front of you and try to synthesize any common errors or common responses that you might see. So this is a low-risk, formative way to assess what's happening in the moment as you're teaching. Some of the benefits: it's a quick way to get students to begin to communicate with statistics. Everyone can participate. You want to have to unmute themselves and answer your question, because if you've ever been in a Zoom meeting with lots of people, unmuting yourselves is very well. There's time built in to encourage participation. So if you're telling people to, you know, wait, then they might have to wait, but that's okay, because some people are still finishing their class, so everyone has a chance to actually get it done. Even if only a few students do this, like maybe only 5 or 6 of your students choose to actually do this, that's better than nobody. So you've got some benefit from that by just reading the chat. And if you have students that don't want to participate in the public chat, I had students this past semester that would participate in the private chat. Like they'd want to share, they were okay with sharing their answer with me if it was wrong, but they didn't want to share it with the rest of the class if it was wrong. But at least they were still sharing. So this is your prompt. You're going to try this yourselves. So this is which one doesn't belong. That's what WODB stands for. And this goes with Unit 1, exploring one variable data. So there's 4 different graphical representations. And what I'd like you to do, but don't hit enter after you start typing, I'd like you to choose a letter for the one that you think does not belong. So which one is not like the others? Which one's the odd one out? And why? If you say D, you have to also have a reason why D is not like the others, or why A is not like the others. So you're going to type a letter and why it does not belong. I'll give you a minute to do that. Okay. And, you know, until your students get used to this procedure, you might have to remind them to not hit enter. Give you another 15 seconds. All right, hit enter. Like a lot of people are choosing A and thinking about symmetry. Some people, yep, a lot of people notice that C is bimodal. It looks like everybody chose A or C. Oh wait, somebody said B because it's black and white on my screen. Some people chose A. A is not symmetric. A is also the only one that's a dot plot. Okay. D is strictly positive. Yep. Whoop, I went to the next one. Sorry about that. D is strictly positive. Yep. It doesn't cross the x-axis or touch the x-axis or the y-axis. One of the other things I wanted to point out is variability. In terms of variability, there's a similar variability, I believe, in A, C, and D. And B actually has more variability, at least if you think in terms of like the range. You could pull out B for that reason. And in terms of frequency, you could say A does not belong in terms of frequency because its highest frequency is 14, where all the other ones have the same frequency, maximum frequency, I think it's like 24. So I tried to make it so that they were, you know, you could choose different ones for different reasons. But you could also do it with a graph like this. And let me go to the last one here. Right, so, you know, if you've talked about Unit 2 of the course and exam description, you could ask your students just to type in 5 to 10 words that describes what they see in this graph. And we won't do this one as a chat explosion, but I wanted to point out you don't have to have the which one doesn't belong because those can be challenging to create. If you've ever tried to create them yourself. But if you were to just Google which one doesn't belong, you can find them for other courses as well. So that is chat explosions. That was all.
Thank you, Lee. That was really nice. It's a wonderful way to engage our students in the chat. And I like to where students can either do it publicly or privately. And giving their responses. That's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. Are there other shares? Amy?
Hi guys. So I feel like everybody is thinking exactly the same thing because I went to a really great workshop yesterday, virtually of course, through Math for America called Why Building Community Matters Now More Than Ever. So they were so what got me into this, Roxy was doing like some of the icebreaker questions that she was asking, and I really like those, Roxy. Those are good. But the group that did this presentation had a really good point, and they said that community building is more than just icebreakers because you're building connections with your students. But they had some really great ideas, really good ideas. And I'm gonna post some links in the chat. because most of them, I think, were in this, they have a blog. And one of the ones that we did was, it was like making up a number story. So it kind of builds on what Josh did, where you can create a page. Well, first of all, you have everybody think of a story related to a number. And then you create like a whiteboard and everybody has to anonymously put their number there. Or if there's not a way to do that, they can send you privately their number and then the teacher will put them on the whiteboard. And then what you have to do is each person takes turns to tell their story without saying the number. And then everyone has to guess the number associated with the story. And that's one of the ways that I thought that was really fun. But the links were really good and I think they had a lot of great ideas. And one of the things I really liked is they kind of said you can do things that take 1 minute or you can do things that take, 40 minutes. You have that. So kind of like what we did, I think that would be really great, but also as just a way to get kids verbally talking, perhaps. And I'm interested in getting my students to verbally talk if they can.
Questions for Amy? These are wonderful resources, Amy.
Oh, and I have one more idea.
Okay.
Hold on, I have to find it. That's the problem, is you tuck these things away. So Fawn Wynn had a really good blog post a long time ago where she has one-word writing prompts. And you could use those as one-word speaking prompts. And I thought that would be fun too, to just give students a word and then they have to write something or talk about something with one word. I like that a lot.
Any more questions for Amy?
Also, I just want to ask everybody to think of us New York City teachers because we still don't know what our start date is. Thanks.
Amy, are they still saying that they could announce it 24 hours in advance?
Yes. It's fun times over here, everybody.
I can imagine that. Other resources?
I had something, Chris.
Okay, thank you, Donna.
Let's see, share screen, right?
Yes.
And there it is. So totally, let's give credit where credit's due. And everything that's in here basically came from Skew the Script. But I didn't want to use that method because I wanted something that the kids could do outside of class, whereas I'm going to use the Stats Medic materials inside of class. So they sort of meshed in my mind. And so this is what I did with one of their first lessons in Skew the Script. I put it into a hyperdoc where the students can then like put their link here, and I've got it assigned as an assignment so everybody has their own copy and they can type and tell me their answer. And what I'm hoping that this develops is more fluency with them being able to express their thoughts, because I find that that's a deficit that my students sometimes bring to us, is that they haven't had enough practice with it, with communication. So I made a hyperdoc about the misleading graphs, and I've made one for the categorical variables. And also, obviously, since it's a Skew the Script material, I'm trying to, in this day and age, and especially at my school, discuss issues of social justice and anti-racism. So that's something that I have done. I can't find the stop. There it is. Found it.
Very nice, Donna. Does anyone have questions for Donna? Donna, would you maybe put the link to the website that you were giving credit?
Sure.
just in case people are not familiar with it.
Yeah, give me just 2 seconds. I'll find it.
Okay. So any other comments or questions for Donna? Yes, Donna has the link now in the chat. Thank you, Donna. That's very nice.
If you want to hear the creator of Skew the Script speak, he is presenting on Monday, August 24th for that group that I said that Bob Peterson and I started, where we're having teachers share like every 2 weeks. And so that I just put the hyperlink in the chat for that. It's a Zoom meeting and it is at 8 p.m. Eastern. And so he's going to be talking about that. And then we also actually have, I think it's a professor from Indiana that's going to be talking about COVID testing. And so that's going to be kind of interesting as well. I can't remember the name of the professor off the top of my head.
Lee, is there a way that people could sign up to receive, if they're not on Facebook, that they could receive notifications?
We're also posting it to the AP teacher community at this point. And then everything gets recorded and we're posting it to our YouTube channel that we've created. So people can't show up live to that. And the YouTube channel is called Teaching Statistics Across Any Setting. I think that's what it is. It only has 2 videos on it so far because we've had 2 meetings so far.
Teaching statistics across
any setting. And I'll put the link to that YouTube channel on here as well.
That would be excellent.
And just so you know, the meetings are basically happening every 2 weeks on Monday nights at 8 p.m. And I'll post, actually, I think there might even be a hyperlinked document at the 8 p.m. Eastern, yeah, at the YouTube channel. I'll have to see if there's a hyperlinked document there that has a list of everything we've done so far and what's going to be happening in the future. But we have things planned for like the next month and a half, I think, pretty much so far.
Now, the Facebook group that you're referring to is the AP Statistics Distributed?
Yes, and then there's also just a regular AP Teachers Facebook group. Let's see if I can find that one. So there's 2 Facebook groups. Basically, we don't want to put it on Twitter because, you know, then we'll have to register ahead of time necessarily either. So, but we are going to use the same link each time. So that's the link right there. The other Facebook group for statistics teachers is just called AP Statistics Teachers.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Lee, or do we have any more resources that you'd like to share today? Any concerns that you'd like to share today that maybe you need some advice about, or questions that maybe you would like to ask about the start of school?
I just like to throw out, there's a reminder that the College Board has their AP YouTube lessons that will start posting on September 1. It's kind of too late for teachers who start in August, but they are going to be up on September 1. It was confirmed. AP Daily. Thank you, Lee. And those are up September 1.
September 1. Okay. Yes, Lee put it in the chat box.
And there's a video that is available now if you Google it that tells you about that. It gives you a little 20-minute video that talks about it. They posted new videos.
Okay. Any other resources that you might could share with us or links?
The link that I just put in the chat is for
Hello, and
AP
welcome
Daily.
to our
Oh. Sorry, it just started playing on me as I was talking to you. The link in the chat is for describing the AP Daily. So if you're not familiar with that, you can just.
That video is only a week or two old.
Okay.
And they also redid the 3 videos on the on AP Classroom, the other ones. So those are all new.
Well, I thought I would ask you what we might or what you might want to plan for the next time we meet. Which could be when you're in school, or some of you may still not be in school yet. How many of you are starting after Labor Day? It's a few of you. Yeah. I thought possibly that the next meeting we could once again still continue to share resources, but especially for those of you that have started school, that you might could report back about what it's been like with the beginning of school for you. Have you needed to make modifications in how you're running your classrooms? Positives that you're seeing with certain resources that you might be using. Do you have some thoughts? Another suggestion I thought I would put out there is if you would like to maybe designate certain topics to be discussed at the chats. And we could possibly see if we could have a guest that would join us that is considered an expert on that topic or has a lot of experiences. Would that be something you'd be interested in?
Chris, I know one of the things that interested or concerned my participants in APSIs this summer almost more than anything was assessment.
Assessment?
If they're truly teaching online, how do they do valid, authentic assessments that they trust, et cetera?
Is this assessments for AP statistics or just for any? This is your AP?
Specifically AP statistics, but yes. I suppose some of it would carry over to other classes, but these were AP Summer Institutes.
So would you?
I would say it was more the summative type of.
Yeah, summative, because the AP Classroom is doing a really good job on the formative.
So this is the summative.
How do we deal with summative assessment?
Okay. Would you like for that maybe to be the topic for our next chat? Okay. Do you have any recommendations of someone you would like to see if I could invite to join us?
Maybe Beth Chance would be one. She works in assessment.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I thought about Beth. Why don't I plan to reach out to Beth and then we'll go from there. Would you like to meet again, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks? I know this is going to be a busy time for many of you, what with the start of school, if you haven't already started. Let's look at the calendar.
I make the recommendation. And that we let Beth this whether week's better.
What time would work for her?
That's a good point.
Okay.
If we did 3 weeks for right before Labor Day would be September 3rd.
Why don't we tentatively say September the 3rd? And I'll reach out to Beth and see if that date might work for her. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And thank you, Lee, for suggesting the assessment topic. I think that will be an excellent one to talk about as we begin the new school year.
Well, I just know I've done 4 APSIs this summer. I've got a 5th one next week. And that, for the teachers who are going to be online, that was their biggest concern.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure it's a concern for all teachers. So anything else that we should talk about, or? Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you again, Josh, for joining us to present your applets, and to everyone who presented great resources for us today as we start the new school year. So thank you again. And we'll, unless you hear otherwise, we'll plan on September the 3rd.
Maybe Josh can come back in a future meeting when his new activities are out and show us those.
Oh, don't worry. I will definitely pull him in.
I'd be happy to come back.
That would be great. And Josh, you don't even have to come back just to present. We would love to have you every week.
No, yeah, these are good. I've gotten some good tips for my own
Chris?
classes. That's great.
Another one you might put in for later at some point is Chris Olson with his Splat. His accessible free software for AP statistics. Now it's not a good time because the reason I'm doing a workshop next week is he has no power and no internet.
Yeah, he got hit by the tornado that went through.
He got hit by the derecho quite badly. So I picked up his workshop for next week. So this would not be a good time to be hitting him with it, but maybe September, October. I think a good demonstration of that might be helpful to people.
Well, what I'll do is I'll reach out to Chris for possibly the next K through 12 chat, which would be later in September, 1st of October.
But don't be surprised if you don't get a quick reply.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
I'm used to Chris.
Well, no, I mean, with the,
But it's even crazier though, with no
really got hit by that
power.
tornado.
Exactly.
His house was damaged. His trees are
His
down.
trees are down, and he truly has no internet and no power.
Yeah. So.
Well, he's definitely on the list.
Can I offer a suggestion for maybe possibly even further down the road?
Oh, definitely.
This is a K-12 group, but I feel like there's more of the 9-12 maybe in this group. Maybe we can have something that would help us high school educators be more ambassadors of statistics at the K to 8 level.
Well, Lee, I'm actually happy that you mentioned that. One of the things we've been talking about in the last week or so at ASA is having chats for specific age, for like K through 8, 9 through 12, or targeting the chats for the elementary and or middle school with high school teachers, as you say, joining us as ambassadors or being able to share some things with those teachers. One thing I would like to see is a discussion more of that vertical alignment from elementary to middle to high school. I think our teachers still are not comfortable knowing exactly what should be happening at each of those different levels.
I think it would be perfect timing to maybe set up one of these where the focus was the new GAZE document, because then if I think if we all got the high school and the AP teachers familiar with the full GAZE, then that would be also a good entree to reaching out to other teachers about statistics education in the lower grades as well.
Well, I certainly would love to see that, the GAZE document. And I'd actually be happy to help lead that one. Hopefully the GAZE 2 document, if we can get it through production, should be out, we're aiming for by October. And it will be free and accessible online as a PDF through ASA, but you can also purchase a printed copy and it will be through Amazon. So that actually will make the production process a little bit quicker once we get it set and copy edited. But it is with production right now. But we're very excited about the new GAZE 2 that's coming out. So I'll definitely put that on the list. That's something maybe possibly once it arrives, once it's out, October, ideally, we could think about having a session on GAZE 2.
And I was just gonna say, and that those of you that are signed up for the Beyond AP Statistics next week, we'll see a preview of a couple of examples of that in the session that Chris is doing, that are in that document in the session that Chris is doing. So
you'll get a teaser. Any other thoughts? Roxy, thank you. I think that would be a nice way to lead in possibly to trying to bring more of this collaboration through the different grade levels. It's so easy to focus on our individual courses and just trying to get through with our individual courses that we kind of forget about the big picture. Okay, well, I think we've got some good ideas to get us through at least the next couple of months, 2 or 3 months. So thank you again for joining us. And we will be notifying you with the Zoom link and signups, etc., for the next one. And we'll tentatively plan on September 3rd, unless we need to change due to Beth's conflict, but I will reach out to Beth for assessment. Okay, thank you, everyone.
don't tell Beth that I told you to do that.
Oh, I won't. I promise. I promise. I won't put it on you, Roxy.
Okay, I've been getting her to do a lot of things lately, so make this one can be on you.
It can be on me and everybody else here in the group.
Yeah. All right.
Recording of this.
Hi, Henry.
Bye-bye.